Hello and welcome to this new episode of the Values Workshop. This series is called The Other Side Of. I have with me Mustafa, who is an architect by academics and a poet by nature as of right now. I am presuming he writes prose as well. So, welcome Mustafa to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this space.
Yeah. Like I've told you, this is called The Other Side of a Poet. We shall talk about anything at all, and it will be a little related to the profession that you are in, or the practice that you're doing right now, on and off. Let's see how it goes. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself before I begin?
Sure. Hmm. Like I'm still not sure. Like right now, you mentioned about the profession, and I'm still not sure what my profession is. I do, and it's interesting. It's very unusual to say something like this in this world. And I'm also aware that a lot of privileges also comes in the way of saying something like this. Um, if I tell something about myself, um, I think as far as I know from early childhood, um, I was always fascinated by my experiences and experiences of people around me. Um, like I think just in the beginning, I'll throw this big word that everyone experiences but rarely talks about is suffering. Like we all experience suffering. And I think I became very curious from a very early age. Of course, I found words later in my life. But what is this? What is this happening within me? And of course, I went through different phases of life. I did my schooling, I did my college, I did my architecture. But underneath, I was constantly suffering. I was feeling this discomfort. I was feeling this I don't belong, or I am unworthy, or what am I here to do? And I was constantly seeking, searching for what is this all about? What is this human game about? And that led me to interesting discoveries about myself, about the nature of reality, about and I mean after a long period, it also opened up like this art started coming through. There was always this longing to express myself creatively, but it was not happening for a long time because I was so afraid. Uh, but in 2019, something opened up in me, and a lot of visual art, a lot of words started coming through, and something told me that I need to keep this open because this is not just for me. It is for me also, but not just for me. So yeah, I think this is my curiosity. This is my curiosity. How can we ask this important? How can I ask this important existential question? How can I inquire into this question? We have all these difficult emotions and feelings within us of being scared and being jealous and being insecure and feeling small and all these things. And if when we hide from all these things, we are creating more suffering for ourselves and for the people around us. And I have been a big part of creating suffering for myself and for other people around me for a long time till I woke up, till I saw that this is not needed, till I was tired uh, of suffering. I was exhausted of suffering. So yeah, uh, I think this is good to start a little bit about.
Yeah, I think you set the ball rolling in a very definitive manner with that answer. But I will pick up only one little word that struck me out from what you've been talking. You use the word game. To understand this game,
Yeah.
somewhere you use that term, and it struck me, yeah, it is a game. But so my question is, how does one play this game? Whatever your experience has been so far, is this game to be played seriously or with fun or a mix of the two? When and where do we draw the line that we've understood at least a bit of this game or we haven't? How do you pursue your line of thought with this question in mind?
Wow, interesting question. So what my intention is that I want to seep in this question and see what is alive for me in terms of my experience rather than using words of people that I've heard who talks about similar things,
Yeah,
you know? Hmm. I think for me, if I reflect on it, I think it keeps on varying. Like somewhere at some level, I know this is a game which I'm supposed to play, have fun with it. But at the same time, if I be very honest, I become too serious at times. I take myself too seriously at times. I become too occupied, too identified with my thought processes, with my feelings, with my emotions, with my denseness, and all of that. And I think that is the default setting of human collective as such, right? That we are taking this game very seriously. And I think one of the important uh, thing for some of us to do in this lifetime is to wake up to the reality that this is a game. And when I say this is a game, does not mean it is not important. It is still important. It is still the most precious thing. I mean, we 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 are conditioned in our society that work is something important, game is something optional. But that's not true. Like, Alan Watts also talks about these things, and it's true. Like, how can our work become play? And I'm still learning. No, I wouldn't say that I am embodying these qualities in a perfect way, but these qualities are worth aspiring for. So one of the things that I do is when I become too serious, I become aware of it. Oh, I have become too serious. And then how can I infuse joy in my life? Um, so I mean, there are different things that I do in my life, but yeah, I think if we really want true healing to happen in our collective society, in our friend circle, in our family, everyone is too serious. Everyone is so occupied with themselves, with the thoughts, with the fears, with the worry. And how can we bring through healing in our collective, in our society, in our family? I mean, I think as I understand, the only way is to bring joy. And the only way to bring joy is to be joy. Um, and of course, I mean, and I think allowing ourselves to feel joy also creates this spaciousness within us from which then we can take care of our difficult emotions and feelings. Because if we are constantly occupied in that, we are not able to. So coming back to how to play this game, um, how to play this game. Like right now, it just reminds me of one of the teachings from my teacher Ramdas, where he talks about how human consciousness has multiple channels, like a radio station. And like on channel one, it is all one. Everything is one, and everyone and everything is an expression of one. And then you turn to channel two, and then we see individual expressions expressing themselves in a unique way. And then there is channel 3. And so there are, I think for me, there are multiple channels, and how to play it at multiple levels is my attempt. Um, so yeah, I think it is important to see it as a game, and also knowing that game is a very serious,
Yeah.
very important thing.
Okay. One thing that came to mind is you said everybody takes it far too seriously. One of the little attempts I try and do is whoever I meet, I try and joke and say something which is very light without offending them. So even in the place where I stay, we use the lift a lot. So a lot of people come and use the elevator, and most of them are not necessarily from are really working hard for a living. So there are delivery boys and food delivery boys specifically. I always have a standing joke that, oh, they asked me to taste this before you set it up. And this always brings a smile to their face because they know that I'm joking with them, and they also smile. No, sir, I can't give it to you. And it is nice. And sometimes it is the lightest and the smallest things that light people's life. You don't really have to go out and be some extra kind of kindness. You just can smile at them, say a small thing that makes them nod, or just ask them, how are you? Genuinely, that's enough most of the time. The other thing that struck me from your answer was when you use the word occupation, I realized that the series that I'm doing, the other side of, is of this occupation or that occupation. But the word occupation just struck me right now is what we occupy our time with. And that need not be a profession necessarily. Your first answer to who you are was quite lengthy in terms of you were trying not to pigeonhole yourself into something which is so definitive that you can't do something else. So that's where you use so many words to express the freedom that you want to feel, in spite of expressing yourself as a poet or a writer at this present moment. Tomorrow you might want to go back to architecture and express yourself best there. There should be nothing that holds against your personal experience, is what I sensed. I'm not saying that I'm fully right, but at least that was the sense that came to me. So my question to you, when we are taking ourselves too seriously, why do we forget ourselves what we are occupying our life with? Because finally profession is not separate from life. I have had so many friends who are so busy being successful that once they've made the money and done all the right and wrong things to reach a certain place, now they don't have time to enjoy it. Sometimes they are either caught up in that wrong thing trying to resolve it. Sometimes they are caught up in that right thing is so big that they have to keep working to sustain it. But either way, they don't have time to enjoy life, which is what they were working very hard for. So I am now asking from the question point of occupation. We are occupying our life with these quote unquote thoughts, words, deeds. But we are not ready to be responsible for them, because when it happens, then we are complaining, oh, this didn't happen the way that I wanted. But you need to give yourself time and space to think this through. Since you are a person who is seemingly not caught up in this trap, of at least not strongly yet, how do you view yourself? Do you view yourself as free, or do you view yourself as अरे अभी तो बहुत बाकी है, कुछ किया ही नहीं?
Wow. Very powerful question. Let me be with it for a while. Let me be with it for a while.
Yeah.
First of all, let me acknowledge and appreciate the small ways in which you are bringing joy by the small ways in which you are bringing joy to the world, to the life around you. I think that is such a beautiful thing to offer to this world.
Yeah,
And so thank you for that. And we need more and more of that in our life. So
thank you.
yeah, it's such a beautiful gift to have. I was laughing when you were saying that I am free. To some extent, yes, but still, I think the way I see this game is that relatively we can have freedom, but till one is completely enlightened, one is still in a trap. One is still on a trip. And I, I, there was a time when I was thinking that what I am doing or the kind of path I'm walking on is better than someone else's path. But I think with time I have come to this recognition that all trips are at some level important and necessary. Even if someone is on a trip where they are doing things according to the matrix, where they are busy earning money or gathering fame or all these things, I used to have an opinion that, oh, that is a wrong path and someone has to leave that and do what I am doing. Inquire into the nature of self and ask this existential question. But I think I have come to this understanding that no, my karmic predicament is such, my causes and conditions are such that I am these questions. It's like at some level, if I see deeply, it's not my choice that I'm asking these questions, that these questions are being asked through me. You see?
True.
And so the way I see is that for some karmic journey, it is important to go through the whole cycle. It is sometimes important to go through the whole cycle of doing whatever that one thinks will bring them that true happiness and freedom. To go to the full extent of it, to find out that this is not where that is. And it may take this lifetime or it may take multiple lifetimes if one believes in multiple lifetimes. Because at one level, I also see all of us as one singular organism just expressing ourselves through these different point of views. So the journey that you are experiencing right now is also my journey. Like we have this conditioned approach that time is linear, where past happened, present happened, future happened. But I also see time as very parallel thing. Like when I talk about this incarnation, that past lives and future lives, what if those lives are just happening parallelly right now? What if the beggar on the street is me and the politician on the throne who is causing all the abuse in the world is also me? And what if all of it is part of one trip? Like, these are fascinating ways to see this game. Because at one level, if everything that is happening right now is supposed to happen this way. So then the question for me becomes, then what is my role? How
Yeah,
do I honor this time that I have here? Then that becomes an interesting question. And of course, when I see something happening which is causing suffering in the world, and if something was to come through me to take action against it, that also belongs. If I feel inspired enough to take action for something, I should take action. Um, but I think there are two states of consciousness from which we operate from. One is this state of consciousness of separation, where I see things that separate from mind, and another state of consciousness is the state of consciousness of unity, where I see everything as one. So I think when I'm operating from separation, I'm doing me against other. I can have a very noble cause. I'm fighting for some very noble cause. I'm fighting for environment. I'm fighting for political justice. I'm fighting for whatsoever, but it's still coming from this place of separation. And I feel that that can only create more separation, even though my intentions are noble.
okay.
the another place to operate from is also this place of unity, where I see everything as one and I still take inspired action. I can still stand up for the cause that I feel called for, um, do whatever is necessary, but don't. It's like I'm doing things for something and not against something. There is a nuance in it. And I think as I'm speaking this, I'm also realizing I almost forgot the question that you asked.
Okay, I will anyway move on to another question. You have answered the earlier question because you started with a very strong word that uh, unless enlightenment happens, uh, where is the darkness? Why are we seeking enlightenment to start? I'm saying because you used it as the very first couple of words to answer the question. So if I see that you are free and you still do not see yourself as fully free, to use a terminology that perhaps you are pointing towards, um, where is the darkness?
Where is the darkness?
What are we trying to get enlightened from? Who is
Hmm.
bound us? Who has bound us?
I mean, I sense it is our own ignorance, my own ignorance. The fact that I feel myself separate from my surroundings, my people, my entire humanity, the sense that I feel separate from it is my darkness. And is my I think that is where I'm bound. That is where I'm bound to create conflict and suffering no matter what I do. And as I say this, of course, intellectually I can have this. I can read different philosophies, Buddhist philosophies, and all these, and intellectually I can tell myself that everything is impermanent and everything is one, and all of this. But have I realized it at a bodily level? Have I realized it? Because in my case, at least, like, if I tell about myself, I have not realized it. But still, something in me knows that there is a possibility of that knowledge to be fully awakened through this human being, through this human body, through this human experience. I think that is beautiful gift of being human. That we have this faculty of self-reflection. You know, I think human being are the only species that I see in conflict with the natural rhythm of nature. Like we have somehow, and when I say we, including me, like we have somehow unconsciously separated ourselves from nature, and then we are functioning. So I think the wise thing for me seems like to go back to that knowledge. And it's a trip. I know it's a trip that who am I to even think that that will happen? Like it's this illusion of free will. At some level, I think life does what it wants to through me, but at the same time, I think that I have free will. So then, how do I exercise it? How do I play with it? What do I dedicate it in direction of? You know. So then I play with it in my own ways, where I set these noble intentions of, like, again, Ramdas tells this that this even desire to be free is a trip, but it's a good trip to have. And I think before one truly gets free, one has to give up even this desire to be free. So yeah, I mean, as long as I have this illusion that I am doing these things, I am taking these actions. I am speaking these words. Oh, look how smart I am. Oh, look how dumb I am. All these ideas are just ideas. And I think how skillfully can I play this game? Also, today we live in a time where so much spiritual information and teaching is available that it becomes very important. How skillfully can I use it and not get trapped in it? Because I have found myself being trapped in it again and again to escape my own humanity. You know, right?
Beautiful, beautiful.
And yeah, and life will show again and again that you can't escape your humanity. You the it's so basically then the dance becomes, then the game becomes, how do I become fully awakened to my divine nature while embracing my humanity fully and completely, which also means embracing my darkness completely, all the dark parts of me, all the shadow parts of me. uh, and I think that is one of the noblest things that we can do, and I am very immature in doing that, but the intention is to do that. How can I embrace dark parts of me? All these difficult, dark emotions and feelings and perceptions that I have within me. Because when I'm able to do that within me, then I'm able to do that within our collective as well. Like when I see any darkness outside, when I see anything negative outside, I know that this is also in me.
Yeah.
You know.
So an interesting part here is one of the beautiful thoughts that came to me when you use the word nature is, so we call it a game, and then there are levels: basic, intermediate, and expert. So, and this also goes in tune with what you talked about, Ramdas saying channels. So the channel number one is where everybody is connected, and the other channels are different levels of consciousness or understanding that we seem to have. One interesting thought crossed my mind. Me and a friend had gone to meet Ramesh Balsekar. I don't know if you've heard of him, and he was very old at that time, and the only time we heard that he spoke about that he was enlightened, and me and this friend were very curious to know what an enlightened person seemed like. And here was one who stayed in Bombay who claimed that he was enlightened. So let's go and see. So when we went, we were a bit late and kind of reprimanded by one of the service guys. He was supposed to be on time, and we were traveling a long way. Um, Here, so there was somebody, there were a lot of foreigners and a lot of Indians sitting in that room, and one of the guys asked a question. So, what about free will? And he answered, well, every morning when you get up and have got to do what you got to do, is that free will or what? And I burst out laughing at the simplicity of that answer, because typically one expects some mumbo jumbo, spiritual mumbo jumbo, and some like great penetrating, in depth answer. He just asked that, and everybody burst out laughing. He says we make a big deal out of everything. There is consciousness and there is cosmic consciousness. Talked about how it works, and something similar to what you've been talking about. Uh, okay, so let me throw a spanner in your works for a while. There are so many friends of mine who, when they hear such kind of things, like I called it mumbo jumbo, they say you guys are impractical. If you got to stay in the world, you got to be successful, you need to have a car, you need to have air conditioning, whatever that one is used to at our level of life. I cannot deny that we live a life of privilege. We are not staying on the streets. We are not forced to beg for food. Our circumstances are all right. We can, even though we are supposedly in tune with nature, we are protected against the vagaries of nature. If it suddenly starts raining, we have umbrellas and sheds and stuff like that. Why does this wisdom not come to that person staying on the street who's still to find out an answer to everyday hunger and basic needs of shelter? And like we see such terrible inequality in the world. Terrible. It wrecks one's heart when one sees that. And however good we feel, I come back to my home. Sometimes, if I'm feeling hot, I put on the AC, have a nice cool glass of water or something. I chill, to use today's language. While still worrying about that guy on the street, I may help him out. I may gift him a cool bottle of water, or maybe if I'm feeling very, very generous, buy him an umbrella or a tent or something. Finally, he has to stay on the street, and that fight doesn't go away for him. And I'm unable to do anything. How does Mustafa see this inequality? And do you agree that there is a sense of privilege to our seeking? We are lucky to be born in families or be educated enough to have 2 square meals a day and shelter without worrying too much, while somebody else is not as lucky and stays in the maybe sometimes in the same lane. Maybe I know that guy every day. I cannot do anything more than give him food or give him something. I cannot take him to my home and make him stay with him. I don't dare. Let me be very honest. So, where does this so-called spiritual seeking and the understanding of the matrix, मतलब वो बोलेगा खाना दे दो यार, मेरे को तुम छोड़ो, तुम्हारा बातें नहीं सुनना, मेरे को तुम बराबर से रोज खाना दे रहे हो, यही बहुत, बस यही करते रहो सर, मेरे को नहीं जानना है कि आप संत बन गए कि नहीं बन गए. So how do you see this practical line drawn between spirituality and quote unquote real living? I call it quote unquote because my friends might call it that. I have a lot of practical friends who think that I'm foolish, and I do not deny that I might be. I'm unsure about that part.
Yeah, very powerful question, because ultimately spirituality includes everything and every part of humanity.
Yeah.
And let me acknowledge in this question, there is this sense of helplessness that we feel at times when we see inequality and suffering in our society, and we feel overwhelmed by that inequality.
Yeah.
We feel inequality at so many levels that we don't know at what level to engage on. Is giving food to someone enough? If so, how many people can I give food to, and how many times, and does it really make a difference? All these are some very quite powerful questions.
Yeah, they are.
And I have myself struggled with these questions a lot, and I wouldn't say that I have answers to it. But as you have asked these questions, I will respond and reflect in a very alive, imperfect way in terms of what comes to me as I speak, trusting that things will come out through this mouth. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Privilege also one thing that came. Like, I have struggled a lot with the sense of guilt and shame that comes with privilege. You know, there is a lot of guilt and shame attached with the sense of privilege. One of the things that like when I was noticing this guilt and shame within me, that came with the awareness, the knowledge that I have certain privileges. For example, I have certain financial privileges that I don't have to take care of so many things, because of which I could ask these difficult questions. I could go on this self-exploration journey. And I think it is important to become, or I think it is important to be aware of our privileges. It is very important to be aware that these are the privileges. And of course, with my privileges, there are also things that I do not have as better as other people. For example, some people may have less privilege around money and finances, for example, But like I have my friends who have, but they had amazing families. They had families which were content and happy and healthy and comparatively healthy. And I grew up in a family which was much more chaotic, much more. There was a lot more emotional, physical, different kind of overwhelm and abuse and this. So to see it at all levels. And how can we see how can we see all these things without judgment? I mean, we can have judgment, then we can become aware that okay, there is judgment. Can I put it aside and see things for what they are? So one of the questions that I asked that helped me was that if I have this privilege, then how can this privilege be used in service of all?
Sure.
Because it is a waste to deny the privilege.
It is.
If someone has a financial privilege, if someone has a educational privilege, if someone has a spiritual privilege, if we consider all these things as a privilege, and if we already have it, and then we see suffering in our society at whatever level, what can my privilege bring in this world that can truly benefit all beings? Now that can take a form of okay, I will provide meals for people, or I will write books, or I will talk about things, or I will create spaces for people to embrace their emotions and feelings, or I will offer healing tools and techniques. It could be then that can help us come to our core. I think, because if if our spiritual teachers that we admire, like, and if we truly look at their life, not just the teaching, but their life, even if they are talking about transcendence and non-self nature of things and all of these things, our teachers are very much grounded in their humanity. They are doing things, they are not denying any aspects of humanity if the teachers are truly realized teachers.
Yeah.
uh, they will talk about, if the teacher are truly realized teachers, they will talk about service, they will talk about serving people. So then I think it becomes a good self-reflection that how can I bridge, like you very rightly said, that person on the street doesn't care about what you understand about reality and this and that, and he wants food.
Yeah.
And can you give food? And if you can give food, give food. If you can't give food, can you love him? Can you sit with him? Can you smile at him? We, including me, we are too afraid to love them.
We are.
Because if I truly will love them, I think out of our own fear, we create this separation between us and them. Because interesting thing becomes that how am I perceiving this person? You know,
Yeah.
All these things become very interesting. Like we have this conditioning, we have our prejudices, we have our all biases and everything. And I think one of the important things that we can do on our journey is making these unconscious parts of us conscious, not being ashamed of it, not hiding from it. For example, if I have judgment for someone, that I am better than someone, I have that unconsciously. The moment I see it in myself, how can I, with awareness, with acceptance, make it conscious that this exists within me? Because most of us use spirituality to hide away from it. Oh, I am all one and everything is one, and I don't see any separation and all this bullshit we do. I mean, these are important teachings, but how to bridge that teaching with our experiential honesty?
Yeah,
So it's important. I think even our friends who are living a practical life, so-called. I mean, spirituality is ultimately the most practical thing to do. So if we think that there is still a separation between these two, we need to do a lot of work on our understanding of what spirituality is. And I'm speaking about all these things. I also want to confess that I don't know if I'm hardly contributing to anything meaningful. I question that to myself a lot of times. You know,
yeah, it's a
sometimes
journey.
sometimes we contribute out of guilt because we feel guilty. We contribute out of guilt, and then that is also interesting to observe. I just want to end this reflection with this one teaching from my teacher Adya Shanti, that the true gift that we can give to humanity is our own awakening. That we awaken to our true nature, that we awaken from this illusion of separate self that we have from our world. That is the true gift that we can give to the world. But at the same time, in the same sentence, he also tells that does not mean one should not help and serve people in other ways. That does not mean that one shouldn't donate or one shouldn't feed or one shouldn't help people in other ways. All those things are also helpful and needed, but at the same time, the ultimate gift. How can we do this simultaneously? These are interesting things to reflect on and then trusting that right understanding, right insight will appear and guide us through. And it will look unique for all of us.
True. Wonderful. Your answers are quite long and thought-provoking. You have given us an unhindered understanding of how you think about so many aspects that are actually quite deep within all of us. So I thank you for your time and your wonderful answers and for the contemplation that one would have to do on so many things for the self, some of them being provoked by your answers. I had a fantastic time. Thank you for joining me. I shall see you soon.
Thank you so much for giving me this space to self-reflect and offering this podcast space. This is such a beautiful thing that you are doing, and I hope someone, whoever is watching this, finds something of benefit from this. Um, and I hope I have been able to be honest and authentic. And if not, you are able to see that in me, and you know that where I'm not authentic. So that's also a gift in a way.
Yeah.
So wishing you and everyone who is watching this a beautiful day ahead, and yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
opportunity.
Thank you so much.